Welcome to DRM News Podcast. You know, sometimes reality throws these curveballs. I mean, even Hollywood couldn't script this. A giant sinkhole opened up in Melbourne, Australia, right smack in the middle of a huge infrastructure project. We're talking about the Northeast Link. It's supposed to be this like 10-kilometer toll road, a game changer for the city's traffic. But now, now there's this, get this, 18-meter deep chasm, 1 meter wide too, right where these are colossal tunnel boring machines, right where they were supposed to be working. So to unpack all this geological drama, maybe you'd learn a little bit about what's under our cities, the risks. I've got our expert here. Okay, so let's rewind a sec. Can you give us a picture of this Northeast Link project? What were they even trying to do, and why was it such a big deal for Melbourne?
The Northeast Link, well, it was this ambitious attempt to connect two really key freeways in Melbourne's network. So the Eastern Freeway and the Metropolitan Ring Road. The idea was to kind of create the seamless route, bypass some of the worst traffic, congestion points, hopefully cut down commute times significantly. And get this, they brought in, these are gigantic tunnel boring machines,
right,
nicknamed Zelda and Gillian.
I love that they have names.
Right. Each one, get this, 4,000 tons.
Oh.
I know. They were literally chewing their way through the earth until, of course, the ground gave way.
That's the part that gets me. What is down there? What don't we know about? So what do we know about where and how this sinkhole even happened?
Well, it is kind of unsettling. The sinkhole, it appeared near the Lower Plenty worksite, which, and this is interesting, it happens to be an old army barracks. Yeah. So that adds a layer, right? What might have been happening there decades ago. And now we're seeing the consequences. But reports say it appeared suddenly. 1 minute it's solid ground, the next, bam, this gaping chasm, 18 meters deep, 1 meter wide. One of the machines, Gillian, had to be completely shut down, and they're scrambling to move Zelda to get her to safety.
It's like a microcosm, of all the risks these massive projects face. We plan, we engineer, but nature's in charge, right?
Can you tell us about the science behind these sinkholes? Is there anything about this location that might have made it, more prone to collapse?
Sinkholes they're actually fairly common geologically.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make them any less dramatic, right?
They happen when you have soluble bedrock under the surface, like limestone or gypsum. And over time, water dissolves the rock, and it creates these voids, these cavities underground. Now, the specific cause here, we don't know yet. It's still being investigated. But that army barracks history, yeah, it's definitely raising eyebrows. Who knows what was there? Stored there, disposed of there over the years. Buried structures, old utility lines. It's a geological mystery, right?
Like a real whodunit.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, were there any warning signs? Is this even detectable before it happens? Do they do geological surveys?
That is the million-dollar question. You're right. The surveys are crucial, especially with tunneling. They map the subsurface, right? Look for weaknesses. Assess the risk of things like, sinkholes. Whether they did them here, and if they did they miss something? That's for the investigation to uncover. Maybe there were subtle signs, changes in the ground, water drainage, things they didn't pick up on. Or it could be totally unpredictable. Nature just, threw a curveball. Nobody could see it coming.
Makes you think, are we ever truly ready for these things, even with all the technology?
That's a tough one. We try to predict, we try to mitigate, but nature always has a few surprises up its sleeve. And this surprise happened in the middle of a project that was already facing some challenges, right?
This was not smooth sailing even before the ground opened up.
No, not at all. The Northeast Link has been, it's been controversial from the start, mostly because of the cost. It just keeps going up. The initial budget, it was around $10 billion.
That's already a lot.
It is. But now it's ballooned to $26 billion.
Wow.
You can imagine the public outcry, especially those who are, questioning the project's value from the get-go.
So this sinkhole, it's adding insult to injury. Literally, what happens now is everything just stopped while they figure things out.
Everything's halted completely. And for good reason. Safety is the priority right now. The engineers are assessing the stability, trying to figure out how bad the damage is and how to even proceed. The big question is, how long is this going to delay things, and how much is it going to add to the budget? We're talking an already inflated budget. Everybody wants those numbers, but it's too early to say for sure. It all depends on the solution. Can they just fill the hole and keep tunneling? Or will they need to reinforce it, maybe even reroute the tunnels? Each option comes with its own set of costs and challenges.
It feels like we're on the edge of our seats, waiting to see what happens next.
That's a great way to put it. This is a drama, above ground and below ground. The engineering, it's a huge challenge. The financial stakes, they're sky high. And the public is watching closely. It's a fascinating case study, these huge projects. And the unexpected forces, the things that can just derail the best laid plans.
Yeah, and those initial cost concerns almost seem cute now, right?
Right. Now we're talking a whole new level of financial risk. And how are they going to explain this to the public? They're already footing a massive bill.
And the public, I'm sure they're not thrilled.
Oh, there's definitely a lot of frustration, anxiety. People were already dealing with the construction, the disruption. Now there's this added layer, uncertainty, potential delays. And don't forget those who were against the project in the first place. This just gives them, more ammunition.
So it's not just engineering, it's PR too. They've got their work cut out for them.
Yeah.
On all fronts.
Absolutely. This sinkhole, it's exposed a lot more than just a hole in the ground. It's exposed how vulnerable these projects are. That balance between what humans want to do and nature. And it's going to force some difficult conversations about costs, risks, and the future of these big projects. I mean, in a world where the ground beneath us is becoming, less predictable.
That's a powerful thought. We're not just building roads and tunnels, right? We're building the future.
Yeah.
And it has to be able to handle these kinds of challenges. This is definitely a story we'll be keeping an eye on.
I think we all will. This isn't just about Melbourne. It's relevant to any city, anywhere, dealing with aging infrastructure, growing populations, the uncertainty of climate change. This could happen anywhere, and that's something we all need to be prepared for.
Well said. This deep dive, it's just getting started. We'll be back to explore more as the story develops.
I'll be here, ready to dig deeper.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with more on this. But for now, let's just hope Zelda stays safe.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Zelda because this whole thing, it really makes you think about the risks, right? Using this massive equipment underground, 4,000 tons. On ground, that might not even be stable. That's a gamble, isn't it?
It's hard to even picture that weight, the pressure. And it makes those cost overruns, even more important now. What are we looking at financially? What could this sinkhole cost?
Financially, it's going to be significant, no doubt. Even before this happened, the budget was a big point of contention. Remember, this is public money. And when a project is supposed to be $10 billion, suddenly more than doubles, $26 billion. People are going to ask questions.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
And now we have even more uncertainty. Could this whole project be jeopardized?
It's possible. Definitely something keeping the project managers up at night. There's a lot on the line, not just the money, but politically too. This project, it's been a big topic in Melbourne. And there are people who think it's not worth the cost, even without the sinkhole.
That's true. And we haven't even talked about the environmental impact. That's another whole layer.
Oh, absolutely. You can't build a 10-kilometer road without impacting the environment around it. Habitat fragmentation, noise pollution, the carbon footprint. These were already issues. And this just adds fuel to the fire.
So they're facing pushback from all sides. Is anyone actually supporting the project?
Oh, yeah, for sure. There are plenty who think this link is crucial for Melbourne. For the future. Less traffic congestion, better air quality in the long run. They say it'll boost the economy, jobs, trade. It's an investment, they say, in the city's infrastructure.
So it's this classic weigh the benefits against the risks, right? The cost, economic and environmental.
Exactly. And the sinkhole, it's thrown a real wrench in things. Everyone's reevaluating. Is this project even viable? Tough situation. No easy answers.
Speaking of tough situations, let's go back to those tunnel boring machines. You said they're massive. What does it even take to move something like that, to get it to safety?
Moving 4,000 tons. It's not like parallel parking, that's for sure. It's slow, it's intricate. You need a whole team, skilled engineers, specialized equipment, probably hydraulic jacks, heavy-duty rollers. Inch by inch, they have to move that thing. Delicate. Engineering and physics all coming together. I wouldn't want to be in charge of that.
Sounds like a nightmare. And all this while they're trying to figure out the sinkhole itself. What kind of, forensic geology is involved in that?
It's like a detective story, honestly. Geologists looking at the soil, the rock, trying to find clues. Why did this happen? Analyzing the bedrock, studying water flow, looking for any signs, anything that was disturbed before, weaknesses in the ground, meticulous. You need to really understand what's going on beneath the surface.
And everyone's watching, right? The public, they want answers. What caused this? Who's to blame? What's going to happen to the project?
You got it. a lot of pressure on the engineers, the geologists, get answers fast. This isn't just science, it's a public inquiry, huge implications. They have to be transparent, keep people informed, what's being done, what are they finding. If they don't, the speculation, the mistrust, it's just going to grow.
It's almost like a miniature version of the problems we face, right?
Yeah.
In the world. Things are complex. We push the boundaries, engineering bigger and bigger infrastructure.
Yeah.
But the planet, it's changing. It's unpredictable, prone to extremes.
That's really insightful. This sinkhole, yeah, it's dramatic, but it's a symptom of a much bigger challenge. How do we match our ambitions with the reality of the planet? We can't just keep building like the ground is unchanging, unyielding. We need to be smarter, adaptable, aware of the forces around us, the natural forces.
Which leads to a really interesting question. Is this a wake-up call? Could this change how we do these mega projects in the future?
I hope so. Every crisis, it's a chance to learn, to improve. The sinkhole, yeah, it's unfortunate, but maybe it's a catalyst for a different approach, more nuanced, more sustainable. It's a reminder we can't conquer nature. We have to work with it.
So this isn't about filling a hole, right? It's about filling a gap in our understanding.
Yeah.
The risks, the responsibilities that come with these massive endeavors.
Exactly. This is much bigger than a sinkhole. It's about our relationship with the planet, our ability to adapt when things go wrong, our responsibility to build a future that's, yes, ambitious, but also sustainable.
We've talked about a lot today, from the technical stuff, how sinkholes form, to the bigger picture, what it means for society.
We have. And it's important to remember, this story's not over. There's more to come.
And we'll be here to unpack it all. But for now, let's step back. The big picture. What can we learn from this? What can help us face the challenges ahead?
That's a great question, one we should all be thinking about. Maybe the biggest lesson is we need to approach these projects, these big projects, with humility, respect for the natural world. We don't know everything. We have to be ready to adapt when things don't go as planned.
Humbling, isn't it? We think we're in control. But nature, sometimes it reminds us who's really in charge.
It does. The sinkhole, yeah, it's disruptive, but it's a powerful reminder we can't ignore those forces, the ones beneath the surface, literally and metaphorically.
We need to dig deeper, not just into the earth, but into our understanding, how complex things are, how everything's connected.
Couldn't agree more. Think beyond the immediate crisis. What are the long-term consequences? This sinkhole, it's a wake-up call. Reassess our priorities, build a future that's sustainable.
A call to action, one we can't ignore. This deep dive, it's just getting started, and we'll be back to explore more as this unfolds.
I'll be here, ready to dig deeper.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back soon with more on this. But for now, let's just hope Zelda stays safe.
You know, it's crazy, right? This one sinkhole, it's like captured everyone's attention. It's like it tapped into this fear, you know, what's under the surface, literally and maybe figuratively too.
I know what you mean. There's something about it. Seeing the earth just swallow things up, our creations, it makes you think, you know, how vulnerable we are. We depend on all these systems and we just take them for granted.
Then this system, this Northeast Link, it was supposed to fix a real problem, right? Traffic. All that congestion in Melbourne. What does this delay mean for the people who are counting on this to make their lives easier? Oh, there's going to be a ripple effect. Big time. People who were looking forward to less traffic, well, now they're facing even longer commutes. Businesses, the ones that rely on, you know, efficient routes, they're feeling it too. And the longer this goes on, the worse it'll be. For the whole city.
It's like this sinkhole. It shows how fragile things are. Our cities, you know.
Yeah.
Everything's connected.
Yeah, exactly. We think of infrastructure like it's on its own, you know, but it's not. It's all connected. One part gets messed up, the whole thing feels it.
What about the political side of things? This project was already, I mean, people had opinions. How's this going to affect the government? The people who are pushing for this?
Oh, it's a headache for them, politically, I mean, the opposition. They're already using this to criticize the government. You know, you mishandled the project, look at the costs, you weren't transparent enough. This is a real test for them, their leadership. Can they get the public's trust back? Can they handle this?
It's a reminder, you know, these projects, these huge projects, it's not just about the engineering. It's about people, what they think, balancing all those interests.
Right. And here, that balance is, well, it's gone. The government they have to work hard to get that confidence back, not just in the project, but in them. Can they manage this responsibly, transparently?
So what happens now? What should we be looking for as this story keeps going?
Well, first, things first.
Yeah.
Right. Secure the site, make sure the workers are safe, figure out how to get that massive machine out of there. But looking ahead, we need to see what the investigation finds. What happened? Why did the sinkhole happen? Did they miss something? And what about the timeline, the budget? How's this going to affect those?
And maybe even more important, will they learn from this? Will this change how they do these projects in the future?
That's the big question, right? Will this make them more careful, think more about sustainability, or will it be back to the same old way of doing things once the attention dies down?
That's a choice, isn't it? Not just for Melbourne, but for everyone. All over the world, do we learn from this? Do we change how we do things? Because the planet, it's changing. Or do we just keep digging ourselves deeper? Literally, and maybe figuratively, too.
It goes beyond this one project, doesn't it? It's about what we value, what's important to us, what kind of future do we want?
Well said. This has been a deep dive. The world under our feet, building cities, how nature can just throw a wrench in the best plan.
It's been great talking about this with you, and I have a feeling this story's not over yet.
Oh, we'll be here for all the twists and turns. Thanks for joining us today on DRM News Podcast. And to our listeners, keep those hard hats ready. You never know when the ground might decide to give way.